Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're currently listening to our video blog and quasi podcast. As I understand, some of you guys are a little anxious because I haven't been doing my podcast lately. Just been working on some other projects, and obviously I try to do my video blogs at least once a week. So that in itself kind of covers my podcast. Eventually, I'll start uploading my podcast on Spotify again and other podcasting platform that we use. But right now, I'm still paying attention to the current events that's happening in Israel, between Israel and Iran. So seems like we're back into the same old crap. Israel basically decided to launch a missile attack into Iran, and Iran reciprocated today. So yeah, folks, I don't know how much more I can emphasize on this issue, but I have said time and time again, there are people that are powerful in this world, people that have been in office and in power for ages, and they're basically trying to relive the past. They're trying to bring back what was done during the time that they were growing up. They're basically revisiting ways to prove of their superiority, their power. Okay, folks, it's just so ridiculously unproductive. All right, folks. I'm gonna try to get here on the side since there's quite a bit of traffic coming in this little tiny road. But so that's basically what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Bringing back the old ways of world domination, which is basically by force. It seems like nowadays diplomacy is no longer the conflict prevention of choice. It's like now people are exercising the bombing now, ask questions later type of edict, which is really counterproductive, to be honest. I mean, haven't they learned anything from the past? And none of the wars that was created in the past resulted to anything good. It just got into the point that the conflict have exhausted the manpower and the weapons available, and therefore the warring countries ended up having to just call it quits. But until everybody's killed off, no one wants to just amicably solve the situation and come to the negotiation table and just talk things out. And it seems like Israel, which used to be this very peaceful, diplomatic, and pro-peace country in the region, is now becoming the aggressor, right? I mean, before they were the ones that was targeted, but now, since they've got so much weapons and power and knowledge and support from the West, they've become the aggressor. All right. As many of you know, when I was back in college, a part of my program, was to study foreign affairs, similar to diplomacy in the region, in the Middle East. And so I was in Israel, studying foreign policy. That was back in 1999. All right, folks. And here we are, 25 years later, 6 years later. All right. Things have gotten extremely difficult for people in the region. So, yeah, and as many of you are aware, Iran is actually a country that has been building up their nuclear capacity, just like everybody else. Okay? Which may be, a form of protection, deterrent, or a form of, engagement for those that wants to, invoke harm into Iran. They may be on an offensive. We don't know, but we definitely don't want to know the result of an offense due to a provoked attack, like what Israel did. They didn't have to shoot any of their missiles into Iran, even if they do have any concerns regarding their overall nuclear capabilities and, their motivations. They could have easily asked them to come to the table and talk things out. But when you unleash, weapons, not quite the massive destruction, but it is a weapon of destruction, it's almost hard to just go ahead and bring people to the table, right? So, unfortunately, things are not looking good in the region. And many of you are aware that there is an ongoing conflict right now in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine. Okay, and things weren't very good there either. The thousands have died. Okay, even though the conflict could have been prevented. But it's unfortunate that, the calmer heads, the logical people, the peacemaker, the diplomats of this world are not the ones in charge of the planet anymore. It's always those that have that beef, that thing that they want to prove to the world that they're superior, they're powerful, right? That are out there. And what a tragedy it was. Yesterday I was listening to the news and tried to figure out what's going on, and all of a sudden, a breaking news came up saying that Israel managed to shoot into Iran, and they were actively targeting some of the nuclear development programs within Iran. Oh yeah, folks. You would think in the year 2025 people would have some sense right now. You would think that people would have learned from the past. But unfortunately, the people that are in charge in today's world grew up in a world that the only way that they can solve their differences is by attacking each other and killing off each other's population and infrastructure and leveling their cities. Okay, it's like bringing back the past where things today could have been easily being fixed and talk things out. But yeah, folks, it's not the modus operandi of the powerful elites of this world, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just sad that things are not improving on this planet. You would think people would learn by now, but things are definitely not improving. With that said, let me know what your thoughts are. I might just do a podcast on this. issue, just because it's it's an evolving situation, and I'm curious to know to what extent the Iranians are going to retaliate. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Israelis have already amassed some form of strategy for a potential bigger conflict. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, is the U.S. going to participate? I don't know yet. When I was listening to the news and trying to understand certain calculations by the current Trump administration, it seems like they tried to de-escalate the situation, but unfortunately Israel didn't listen to them. So I have no idea to what extent this issue is going to keep on going and escalate to a bigger conflict, which I really hope it doesn't happen, because the world have seen enough. All right, folks, we don't need any more war. We don't need any more dead people. We don't need any more destroyed cities, architectures, historical sites. Don't need mass graves. None of that in the year 2025. All right, folks, you got to be creative enough to de-escalate these kinds of situations. If you truly want to be a leader, if you want to be a change maker in this world, you have to be, creative enough to de-escalate situations like these, and bring people, to diplomatically solve their differences. Okay, folks, many of you know, back in the days, I actually served in the U.S. Peace Corps to promote diplomacy, to promote peace, to promote brotherhood, to promote, de-escalations of conflicts. And I gave up a really nice, lucrative job so that I can serve and promote diplomacy and peace between countries, and friendship between Americans and those overseas that we serve. That was my overall reasoning behind me joining the U.S. Peace Corps. Okay, if we were more interested in promoting peace and diplomacy, then these kinds of war and conflict will not escalate. We would have people that are great negotiators to de-escalate wars and conflicts around the world. That's what the world needs to have. Peacemakers. Train people to, negotiate and develop a peaceful, relationship with other countries. All right, folks. So I'm here at the park. I just figured I'd go out for a quick walk since I've been on the phone most of the day today. But yeah, anyhow, that's my thoughts on this evolving situation between Israel and Iran. When I was studying in Israel, I remember going to Bethlehem, okay, folks, and me being not the typical American looking person, I'm not typical obvious American. So people that were Palestinians were drawn to me, I guess because I kind of looked like them. I have black hair, darker skin, so they were coming to me and talking to me just like I was a part of their community. Okay, and to be honest, I don't think that they're really interested in having a conflict with the Israelis, these Palestinians. When I was in Bethlehem, they were more interested in learning, understanding, and having some sort of communication between peoples. So I think what created a lot of these miscalculations and conflicts around the world is because one side wants to learn and the other side wants to teach, okay, instead of both learning. And the ones that wants to teach, they want to teach the other side their power, their overall, ability to wage war and exercise their, muscles, basically. All right, folks, which is so counterproductive, because when you have that kind of attitude, nothing will be solved. All right, folks. So, yeah, that's what I saw when I was in Bethlehem. And then when I got back to Israel, when I was in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, it's a totally different attitude. But this was, about 26 years ago. So, back then, there was an ongoing conflict actually in Jenin, in Palestine. And so our bus was basically being monitored. We weren't targeted, it was just being monitored by the Palestinians, because they knew that the bus was full of Americans. And so anyway, yeah, when I was in Jerusalem, like I was saying, people there, the attitude back then was on an offensive. They were interested in preserving peace and their overall way of life. They're not so interested in attacking, even though there was an ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine at that time in the Gaza Strip. But it wasn't to the point that, it was a full-blown war between the two. Yeah, they did have some, guns pointing at each other on the side of the road, but it wasn't a full-blown conflict. Today, with Iran, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, according to the news, many of the Iranian officials were killed off by those targeted attacks. So I don't know to what extent the Iranians are planning to, reciprocate these kinds of, weapons exchange. I have no idea. I mean, time will tell. But what is this? Any of this ever teach anyone? What have we learned from any of this? Nothing. Seriously. I mean, I know there have been several, precipitation of conflict that resulted to this, but they didn't really have to engage in it. They could have easily talked things out. Okay, folks. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that there is already a war going on in Eastern Europe, and now there's a potential conflict, that could easily transpire in the Middle East in the next few days. So, yeah, folks, really sad revelations of how the human condition is, a sad revelation of how people operate. Anyway, gonna stay in the shade for a little bit. And, it's gotten warmer outside the last few days, and it's harder for me to go out for a walk just because, I don't want to go. I don't want to overheat. So I just thought I wait off until the temperature cools down a little bit, which took a few days before that did happen, and which is today. And they're saying that there's going to be thunderstorm later this evening, so I figure I'll just go ahead and for a quick walk and take advantage of this relief. Okay, folks, so what I was saying is that you would think nowadays, after all the conflict that's been taking place around the world, people would know how to operate by now. Check these out. There's some turtles lined up. These are all snapping turtles. Okay, so, and there's one giant turtle, and right there he's one big gigantic turtle, and he decided to go elsewhere. It's a different type of snapping turtle. I guess it's a different species. Anyway, yeah, What does humanity need to learn from all this? What can we take away from all these conflicts and human suffering and hardship and, mass destruction and destabilizations of society? What have we learned? We learned that we've put people in power that simply does not belong to be in that authority position. Doesn't need to be in that authority position, folks. And the world needs to learn this soon before more issues and conflicts manifest itself. All right, folks. I understand there are people out there that votes for people that they know. There's this thing they say, it's much better to vote for the devil that you know versus the devil that you don't know. To be 100% transparent, you don't necessarily have to vote for that devil or any devil. Let people that are new and those that have, a more optimum decision-making skills and managerial approach lead. All right, folks. That's the reality of things. You need to bring people in that are not in the same, pot as everybody else. You got to bring in independence. You got to bring in, thinkers that don't necessarily think within the box, the proverbial box. All right, folks. Those people you need to bring in when you're electing an official to lead you and make decision in your behalf. All right, folks. So, yeah, that's where we're at this point. Okay, folks. I just wanted to reflect on this situation in Israel because, yeah, to be 100% honest, Israel is actually not that far away from, Europe. So why are these kinds of stuff keep happening in that region? Okay, I simply don't understand. Why are they fighting among themselves to the point that they want to eliminate each other's society? Okay, why can't they fix issues that are so easily be you can correct those things? Okay, unfortunately there are just people that are so, I don't know how to even put it, they're stuck on stupid. It seems like they don't want to move forward. They don't want to learn. They don't want to try out different approaches. It's just like they're constantly trying to bring the world back to the world that they grew up in, which was a pretty messy world back then. All right, folks. So yeah, I just wanted to simply have you all understand that we don't necessarily have to go back to the past. Okay, there are so many ways for us to improve the future, improve today's world. If we're only going to allow certain ideas and opinions and concepts to influence certain decision-making processes and strategies and values. Okay, all right. I mean, folks, I cannot overly emphasize this enough. A few months ago, I was video blogging on the rise of the evil people, evil agendas, nefarious characters, the bad apples of this world. There's actually more bad people today than ever in human history because of the social media platform, because of the internet. People can hide, people can silence, dissent, silence the voices that of reasons, of balance, of logic, if it doesn't fit the narrative of the powerful. Okay, folks. So we now live in a very dangerous world. And this world, the world that I'm talking about, is populated by bad apples. There are a lot more bad apples today than there are good people, unfortunately. I wish I could say that humanity have learned from the past, but as y'all can see, people keep taking us back to the age of war, the age of conflict, the age of mistrust and overly, what's the word I'm looking for? Paranoia. Paranoia today has increased 6-7-fold, because of the internet, because of the social media platform, because we as a society aren't pushing back. We as people aren't, raising our voice and saying to the bad apples out there that they need to straighten up, or else they're going to be exposed, because very few people are willing to expose other people, especially the bad apples. All right, folks. And so that's today's reality. Until the good people out there push back and fight back, then nothing will happen. The evil of this world, the evil people and bad actors out there will prevail, unfortunately. So even on social media, you don't know who's following you, if they're for what you're saying, or if they're just trolling you, or if they have something, bad against you, if they're motivated by anger, hate, whatever. You don't know. They're just going to be following you. Okay, and the moment they can find a reason to attack you, then they'll jump on that. So that's the reality of today's world. When I started writing my concept, faceconomics, back in college, I saw the social media platform as a platform that could increase capacity, improve the state of the world, promote economic development. That's how I, drafted my concept. I was looking into the good that this tool, the social media tool, could be utilized for. And then here comes the bad apples. Here comes the nefarious, evil characters, the hateful people. And they're trying to destroy this world. They're doing anything and everything to destroy this world, unfortunately. All right, folks. I haven't given up. I'm still, sharing my concept and my ideas, my views, values. Even though I'm being silenced and most of the time people can't get access to my content, I understand that. But I simply don't feel that stopping would improve the situation. And so that's not something that I wanted to do. I do not want to give up and surrender to the evil, nefarious, and corrupt characters of this world. Matter of fact, I shared my case from a few years ago, right, when I was discriminated against, my civil rights violated, my human rights ignored, I was attacked by institutional racism. I shared that case with, an institution that I thought would be advocating for me, that would be looking out for my best interests. And it turned out that wasn't the case. All right. So I realized that people that you think would be your advocates and allies will not always be there for you. Okay, and I mean, I've known this for a long time. I know people that you should trust will not be there to support you. That's just the reality of things, and I've learned to accept that. So what I was going to say is that if you have a story that could change the direction of this planet for the best, okay, share it. Do everything in your capacity and power to advocate for what's good and right in this world, because there's very few people that are willing to do that nowadays. Okay, we're only going to be on this planet for a short period of time. Okay, and until we do something about all these garbage that's happening, it will keep on happening. We have to push back. We have to raise our voices. I know it's not easy. I mean, I've been there. I've tried my best, right? I spoke up. I've been silenced many times. So I understand that it's not easy to do what I'm saying. You'll fail. You look like, you look strange and stupid, whatever. Okay? That's a part of the overall experience, But what makes people different from the rest are those people that simply do not give up. One time, and this will date me back to when I was in college, I wasn't a big fan of Dr. Falwell, even though I played for his orchestra. Dr. Falwell was this televangelist that started the university that I attended, Liberty University. So I wasn't a big fan of him, but I do listen to what he has to say. And this one thing that he said that resonated with me was, true champion will be determined by what takes for you to throw in the flag, which is the white flag of surrender. That's what separates the champion from the rest of the world. And if you want to be a champion, if you want to be a change maker, if you want to be that person that people remember throughout history, then you have to keep on keeping on. All right. So I'm, basically imploring everyone that's listening to my voice and advocating for you to lift up your voice, to share your stories. Let the world know how your story will be able to inspire others, to help people learn. All right, folks, that's what you need to focus in on. Don't just be one of those consumers of content. Be a creator of content. All right, folks. I'm not asking for you to, be that major influencer or pay people to build up your content or provide some sort of fake material to amplify your voice. What I'm saying is be truthful, transparent, and be you. All right, just be yourself, share your story, and lift up your voice. And those people that you agree with, that inspires you, help them out too. Share their content. Okay, folks. Again, there are more evil people in this world than there are good, decent human beings, unfortunately. So be that minority, even though you're going against a wave of evil people, be the minority in this world to, influence the bad apples out there and recruit additional good people into your team. All right, folks. So with this said, my name is Al Mean. I'm the concept author of Faceconomics, the utilization of the social media platform in economic development worldwide. With this, I also want to lift up the families and friends of those who perish in the flight, an Indian flight that crashed yesterday. Please lift up their families and friends in your prayers and thoughts. That's probably one of the hardest tragedy and accident that could happen, because these kinds of events typically does not yield the remains of your loved one. So please give them a prayer and comfort. Okay, these families, those Indian relatives and friends of this, those people who suffered and perished in that crash, airline India crash. All right, folks. So today's today's the 14th, I believe, or 13th. I'm sorry, the 13th of June. So we're technically halfway into the year. It doesn't feel like it. I mean, I don't feel like I've been here this long in the US, but yeah, it's been almost a year already, or half into the year already. So I'm trying to think back, what have I done in the 6 months of this year? Have I influenced people? Have I made life easier, better for other people? Did I make things a little bit harder on people? Those are the things that I tend to reflect on. And I'm glad that even though I don't feel like I'm perfect, I'm glad at least to say that I'm proud of what I have managed to do. Alright? I'm proud of certain things that I've got to participate in. And I'm not trying to, tweak my own horn. I'm just simply stating that throughout the 6 months, okay, in this year, I've managed to find ways to make life easier on other people, because that's been always my goal. And I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything, or even trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying, reflecting on some of the things that I managed to do, either by accident or by... So I would do that as well. Reflect on what you've done in the 6 months, maybe shorter than that, couple of weeks, couple of months. Just have an inventory of the best way to improve yourself. It's really more about you improving yourself rather than just, helping others and having a positive impact on other people's lives. It's more like to help you improve by reflecting on the things that you've done positive for others. Okay, so always think of it that way. Don't think of it as, okay, you're patting yourself on the shoulder and making yourself feel like, oh, well, I'm all nice and high and mighty or anything. Always find a way to build up your capacity, increase your knowledge and acumen and, energy all the time. When I say energy, both mental and physical energy, exercise, meditate, listen to music. If you play an instrument as a form of meditation. So yeah, it's important that we become more of a holistic individual. We look into everything in our lives. Now, you're not gonna be, like I said, it's not about perfection. It's always about improvement. Okay? Because nobody's perfect in this world. Never think about perfection, because if that's your goal, you'll never attain it. Look into small incremental improvements in your life, in your health, your interaction with people. Those are the things that you should focus in on. All right, stay away from drama, toxic people. Stay away from those individuals that will most likely influence you negatively, because these people are not happy with themselves, so they haven't reached, the level of self-awareness and accomplishments with their lives that only very few people have been able to attain. So stay away from those types of people, the negative, toxic individuals that has nothing good to say about other people. They love to talk about other people negatively behind their backs. Stay away from those type of terms. All right, folks. So yeah, I'm glad that we got to connect today. I saw someone saying hello here. I didn't say hello to, let's see if I can find your name. It's kind of hard to read the screen since it's so bright outside. So anyway, I can't see your name, but I thought I'd give you a quick shout out. Thanks for joining me and listening to my thoughts. Feel free to share your ideas, concerns, or anything else that you would like for me to talk about on my next video blog and podcast. And let's feed off each other, learn off each other, strengthen each other. Iron sharpens iron. So let's do that together. And don't give up. You're gonna go through the ups and downs of life, but never give up. Okay, that's one thing that I want to make sure that you understand, to never give up, because everybody else have. Many people just basically succumb to the challenges and just giving up, and basically, confined into what the world wants them to be. They basically, the world told them you ought to be this way and you better be happy with it, and don't try to struggle, don't try to push back, just do what the world tells you to do. Okay, many people, thousands of people have done that, millions even. All right, folks, so don't be those type of people. It's just one of those things that I want to impart with you as I sign off on this video blog. You're not confined to the world. Do not let the world tell you who you should be, ought to be, need to be. Don't. The last thing you want is for the world to tell you who you should be. Okay? You tell the world who you want to be, who you represent, what you stand for. Okay? Speak your truth. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you again for joining me on my exercise and video blog this afternoon. And I hope to see you again shortly in the next few days. All right, folks. Let me know, and I look forward to our next engagement.